Hello everyone, welcome back to Myth and Magic. I'm your host, lore, fantasy writer, and folklore enthusiast, and this podcast is where we unravel the fantastical from the factual sometimes. At least today, I've decided that we're going to do bonus episodes where we look and kind of dissect examples, because the whole point of this is not only to learn about folklore of different cultures and all those things, but to learn of them so that we can use them in our own creativity and do so hopefully responsibly. And forgive me if you are over it. I know some people are, but with this kind of being a phenomenon happening right now and really having looked into it and seen it a couple times at this point and studying the music to help my own belt, this is a really good example of taking folklore and culture and modernizing it, or just using it in a unique way that is still honoring what it is originally. So if you couldn't tell already by the title, the YouTube image thing, we're going to be talking about the animated adventure that's part concert, part battle, and all magic. We're going to be talking about Netflix's K-pop Demon Hunters. And on the surface, it's a wild ride. A K-pop girl group, Huntrx, who by day fills stadiums and by night wields supernatural powers to battle demons. But what makes it special is how it weaves real Korean mythology into its heart. So let's break it down. First, let's start with the central conflict. The film's heroes use their music to create a spiritual barrier, the Honmoon, that protects humanity from the Demon King and his demon slaves, Guima. This isn't just a clever plot device that has been used over and over, because there's no such thing as originality at this point, but it's a modern interpretation of a deeply ingrained concept in Korean culture, the power of art and community to ward off evil. In traditional Korea, rituals like the gut, and I do have pronunciation guides, but they don't always turn out right, so I apologize if I mess anything up. Gut ceremonies, or the placement of guardian poles called Jongsung, were thought to repel evil spirits and keep villages safe. The film takes this cultural logic and remixes it for a modern stage. The raw, collective energy of a K-pop concert, the synchronized chants, the glowing ocean of light sticks become a literal wall of protection. The fans aren't just watching, they're part of the spell. And if you've ever been to a Korean pop concert, which I have a couple of times, I used to go to K-Con in LA when I lived in California, and the energy that is brought is just infectious. It's like watching Broadway. The way that things are choreographed, the music, the energy, it is all so amazing and makes a lot of sense as to why it would be the focus of creating this barrier that is focused on the energy and the power of music and the, what's the word I want? Just the collective heart that is a part of it. Now, consider the story of General I didn't get a pronunciation guide for this one. General Sinwai, plagued by a Joseon Saja, a grim reaper, which we'll talk about a little more. He planted orange trees and wore silver to ward off death, both objects believed to hold spiritual protective power. Like the Honmoon, these are examples of physical intentional barriers against the supernatural. So you can see how you can use different ideas to create this kind of protective barrier against the supernatural. In the legend of Barideji, the first shaman princess, music and ritual open gates to the underworld so she can rescue her parents' souls. The Honmoon echoes this. Music as a literal bridge and barrier between worlds. Cross-culturally, this theme of sound and ritual protection resonates everywhere. Japan's Kagura dances summon kami. Tibetan monks use horns and chants to ward off spirits. Medieval Europe rang church bells to banish storms and demons. And also, in Norwegian folklore, I believe, it repelled trolls. They couldn't stand the sound of the Christian bell onto the villains. Guima, the Demon King, his very name tells you who he is. Gui means ghost or demon, and Ma refers to a malevolent spirit. He's not just a new invention. He's a modern avatar of the shadowy forces that haunt Korean folklore. And if you've ever seen anything that is horror Asian, you will know that it is another level of scary. Then there's his entourage, the Saja boys. Now, from what I understand, Saja does mean lion, and hence that's why their symbol was of a lion head. However, their name comes from the Josung Saja. These figures are Koreans' Grim Reapers. Dressed in black robes and tall horsehair hats, they guide souls of the dead to the afterlife. Traditionally, they aren't evil, just agents of fate, feared but respected. K-pop Demon Hunters takes that archetype and flips it. The Saja boys don't guide souls, they steal them. They're parasitic idols, feeding on the devotion of their fans to grow their master's power. By corrupting a familiar figure, the film gives us villains who are both instantly recognizable and terrifyingly new. This inversion deepens the narrative. What was once dignified and inevitable becomes seductive and dangerous. Other cultures share this idea of reapers. Japan has the Shinigami, gods of death who appear in Edo period literature. In the West, the Grim Reaper wields his scythe to gather souls. And K-pop Demon Hunters innovates by making the Saja boys seductive, corruptors through performance, a perfect allegory for the dangerous side of celebrity culture. And this turning the Grim Reaper and kind of twisting it for stories isn't a new thing. I haven't read these books, but I do know of books, and I think there was even a TV show that have the subject surrounded around the Grim Reaper and ferrying souls. Some of it's romanticized, some of it is really dark and gritty. And again, you're taking the base and turning it into something new, or taking the base, staying with the base, and giving it more life, because there's only so much that our mythology gives to something that allows for kind of this interpretation. Now, to kind of wrap this section up, there is one Joseon era story where a man tries to bribe a Saja to delay his death, but the Reaper refuses, saying destiny cannot be bought. And so with taking the Saja pop boy idol band, the film cleverly inverts this neutrality and turning them from impartial guides to agents of corruption. Because in this story, the Reaper cannot be bought. But in K-pop Demon Hunters, there's a goal, there's a trade. The Saja go from being impartial guides, as we've mentioned, is what they are. They're neutral, to wanting something so much that they would then corrupt in order to gain what they desire. Specifically, our main Saja boy. It may be that the Saja boys were just minding their own business, doing their own thing. They're probably buddies. And then one of them has this desire to make the memories go quiet. And he wants it so bad that he's willing to kind of repeat the same mistake he did in his life and become corrupted in that way, and therefore corrupting the other Saja. And I think that goes to show that if your character wants something bad enough, they can go against their nature, the nature of what their entity is. In a story, most people can be bought by something. They'll want something bad enough that they will compromise their integrity and who they are to obtain it. Now, I don't know why I'm having trouble remembering his name. He is a main character, but the main Saja guy, he was already naturally kind of corrupt. And it is through his relationship with Rumi where you see healing and character growth and those things which would probably help him to be a better Saja. But that's a whole lot of moral stuff going on and character-driven choices, their motivation, that's the word I want. And so you have a lot to play with when you are using a mythology and saying, okay, this is their baseline. Now, who is the character and what am I going to do with it in the realm of making who they are and what they are clash, interesting, or harmonize? And then there is Rumi, voiced by Arden Cho. She's half human, half demon. Her markings are stigmas, reminders of her heritage that she hides like a shameful secret. This isn't just a character trait. It's folklore symbolism. This is not just something that K-pop demon hunter writers decided to do to make the story the story. It's an actual, what's the word? Not archetype, plot device that is used in Korean tradition. In Korean tradition, physical marks or birth signs were often interpreted as omens, signs of destiny, or echoes of past lives. Something for you to play with, those of you who like the reincarnation stuff. Rumi's struggle, her fear of being found out, mirrors countless myths where heroes must embrace their mixed or dangerous origins. Think of demigods in Greek mythology or half-spirits in shamanic traditions. The brilliance here is how her markings transform from a symbol of shame into a source of strength. Her story embodies one of the oldest folklore truths, that the very thing we fear most about ourselves often holds the key to our survival. Like demigods or spirit-born figures, Rumi is torn between two worlds, but in becoming the hero, she performs the classic folkloric act, turning the mark of shame into a sigil of salvation. It's a timeless truth. You cannot defeat your demons until you embrace them. This motif is not unique to Korea, though it is used very much in its own folklore. In European lore, changelings, children swapped by fairies, lived uneasily between human and fae. In Japan, the hanyo or half-yokai often appear in folktales and anime, embodying tension between humanity and monster. Rumi's story taps into this universal theme that those who straddle worlds often face mistrust, but can also wield the greatest strength. Now on to what I think is a lot of people's favorite thing about this movie, or at least is really high up on their list of favorites. The music is amazing. It might be number one for everybody. We're all singing it. I'm learning it so I can belt my heart out and not be scared at auditions. Two seemingly lighthearted sidekicks, Derpy and Sussie, carry deep folkloric resonance. Derpy is a tiger, or horangi. In Korean mythology, the tiger is one of the most powerful symbols. It embodies both protector and punisher, a spirit of courage that keeps balance between order and chaos. In minhwa, or traditional folk paintings, tigers frequently appear as guardians. But we'll get more into that in a second. Specifically, Derpy's silly, almost bumbling look recalls the Kachi Horongi style of folk art. These paintings paired a somewhat comical tiger with a magpie to symbolize the triumph of justice and truth over corruption. That leads us to Sussie, the magpie, or Kachi. In Korean folklore, magpies are messengers and heralds of good news. A magpie's call was thought to signal the arrival of a guest or an omen of fortune. Children's songs even celebrate the bird as a bringer of joy. In the film, Derpy and Sussie aren't just comic relief, though they are super cute and adorable and I love them. They are messengers with unique abilities. They can travel across the Honmoon. Did you see Derpy carrying Rumi on the Honmoon? He can travel on it. And they can slip between realms. This reflects their mythic roles. The tiger as a guardian standing at the threshold, the magpie as a traveler and bearer of messages. These aren't demons. These are other mythological creatures, hence why Rumi asks, "What are you?" Together, they embody the liminal power of animals in Korean folklore, protectors, mediators, and guides. They echo the kachimenwa, which are folk paintings that pair tigers and magpies. We mentioned this a second ago. If you haven't already seen, some people have already pointed this out in little short videos, but in these paintings, the tiger represents strength and authority, often drawn with exaggerated, silly expressions to mock power, and therefore nobility in a lot of times, while still respecting its danger, because tiger... if Derpy wanted to slash your face off, he probably could. Not that he would, because he's a sweet boy and we love him. But, it's still there. Together, the pairs symbolize balance, satire, and protection in Korean households. But in K-pop Demon Hunters, Derpy and Sussie aren't just symbolic. They're functional. They serve as messengers between realms. They're constantly sending little messages between Rumi and our Saja boy. Oh, you know what? Alexa, who is the main Saja boy in K-pop Demon Hunters?
K-pop Demon Hunters features the girl group Huntrx/.
No, I would like to know who the main boy character is.
The main boy character in K-pop Demon Hunters is Jinu.
Jinu. I don't know why that was so hard for me to remember. Okay, they're constantly passing messages between Rumi and Jinu. Because of their spirit nature, they can move across the Honmoon barrier, slipping between the human world and the demon realm. Sussie, with her third eye, sees what humans cannot: omens, pathways, and weaknesses in spiritual fabric. Derpy, despite his clumsy nature, is the muscle, able to carry messages or even people across liminal spaces. This ability ties directly into shamanic tradition. In Korean shamanism, animal spirits often acted as guides between the human and spirit worlds, ferrying knowledge or souls. Here, Derpy and Sussie embody that role, literalizing the folkloric idea of animals as liminal beings who cross thresholds humans cannot. So, while Huntrx battle on stage, it is often Derpy and Sussie who ensure the messages get through, the paths stay open, and the walls between realms can be traversed. They're not sidekicks, they are indispensable links in the chain of survival. Other cultures also paired animals as mediators. In Norse myth, Odin's ravens, Hugin and Munin, carried messages across worlds. Asgard and Midgard, I think. In Chinese folklore, the magpie is a bringer of joy and a divine matchmaker. Most famously is the Jishi festival tale, where magpies form a bridge in the heavens. The Korean pairing of tiger and magpie is unique, but the idea of animals as cosmic messengers is deeply global. In the story of the sun and the moon, a tiger kills two siblings' mother and tries to trick them. The children pray, and the heavens lower a rope, saving them. The tiger becomes a symbol of both fear and divine justice. Sussie, the kachi, or the magpie, is equally symbolic. In the kachi horangi, yes, folk paintings, the magpie mocks corrupt officials represented by a bubbling tiger. Their dynamic blends humor and justice. Finally, we come to the two fully human members of Huntrx. And I think it's important to mention the human aspect of the story, because as often as we want to include folklore and mythology and fairies and things, it's important to remember where those ideas came from, where inspiration came from for those things, and how we are involved with the supernatural should it exist in your real life world or in your stories. Unlike their supernatural teammate, Mira and Zoe have no magic powers, but their role is just as vital. And I mean no magic powers if you don't count being able to summon a soul's, what's it called? I really like this weapon that Mira has, and I can't think of what it's called. Regardless, In Korean shamanic belief, humans often serve as bridges between realms. Shamans channel the voices of spirits, but it is ordinary people who participate, sing, and hold the ritual together. In this sense, the human Huntrx members echo the role of the community, the ones who empower the supernatural through loyalty, courage, and shared belief. Their presence highlights a timeless truth. Magic only thrives when grounded in human connection. Just as ancient villages relied on shared rituals, this modern idol group draws strength from its human foundation. In the song Shim Shangjun, a girl sacrificed herself to restore her blind father's sight. Her act of devotion invokes divine pity, proving that human choices can shape fate as strongly as any god. Globally, this is reflected in Greek oracles, who channeled the divine but required human interpretation, in Vodun ceremonies where spirits, and in medieval Europe where lay people's prayers were considered as vital as priestly rites. The human Huntrx members remind us that folklore is never just about spirits, it's about us, the storytellers who keep those worlds alive. Now, real quick, before we close, I want to give a little nod to the weapons the Huntrx use, because they are also very interesting. And if you are familiar with anime, there are several shows that utilize the idea of spirit weapons. And there have been some ideas, and of course, I don't know exactly the intention of the writers here, but it seems that the Huntrx summon their weapons from the Honmoon, right? Because the colors seem to kind of match, but even when the Honmoon is destroyed, they're able to summon these weapons, and they are the rainbow color. And so there is an idea that this is actually coming from their own soul. So first, Zoe's weapon, the sinkal. The sinkal are ceremonial daggers used in gut rituals, practiced by Mudang. Rather than instruments of violence, they're spiritual tools used to cut through negative energies, sever spiritual attachments, and purify spaces during trance ceremonies. In the film, Zoe uses twin sinkal blades, sometimes referred to as shamanic knives, often throwing them with precision. These act as extensions of her ritual spirit magic, channeling purification and clarity rather than brute force. Fans have noted that the dual nature of sinkal and K-pop demon hunters, not only are they weapons, but they purify conduits. Visual motives on the blades, like stylized talismans or neon patterns reminiscent of bojok paper charms, emphasize their spiritual function. So you can see how the writers, they didn't just throw these girls some random Korean weapons. They have a purpose in what they are actually doing. All right, and then Mira's weapon, which is my favorite. I love the long pole, blade at the end, spear type weapons. But her weapon is the gokdo, which is a moon blade, also referred to as a woldo, which means moon blade. It's a majestic pole arm featuring a large crescent-shaped blade mounted on a long staff. One of my favorite aesthetic weapons, and also the sheer power of them is so cool. Okay, the gokdo has its origins in ancient Korean warfare, used by elite cavalry and officers during the Joseon dynasty, and possibly even traced back to earlier Goguryeo or Gaia military traditions. This pole arm also served ceremonial purposes. See, where's that? It appears in court dances and processions where its sweeping, ritualized movements symbolized cosmic harmony and spiritual cleansing. The crescent shape of the blade embodies yin energy, lunar cycles, and the concept of transformation, mirroring Mira's own emotional arc, where she evolves from guarded detachment to fierce loyalty and unity with her teammates. Mira wields her gokdo with precision and grace. Her choreography feels ritualistic and fluid, turning each sweep into an act of spiritual purification, sweeping away negativity and maintaining the protective barrier of the Honmoon. Archaeological findings from the Daesongdong tombs in Gimha show curved pole arms similar to Mira's gokdo, an avant-garde design that Korean artisans developed independently, setting their weaponry apart from other East Asian styles. Concept art highlights the gokdo's ceremonial elegance and its blend of martial and mystical design elements, aligning with the film's broader world building. The film's emotional heart is Rumi. She is main character, and she wields the Sangom, also known as the Four Tigers Evil Slaying Sword. It's a ritual blade deeply anchored in Korean mythology and shamanic tradition. I'm going to say sword because I'm struggling with the Korean word. The sword is said to be forged during the hour, day, month, and year of the tiger, embodying the tiger's cosmic energy from Korean zodiac and shamanic lore. It was traditionally wielded by Korean shamans in gut rituals to banish evil spirits and purify sacred spaces, a sword of spiritual cleansing rather than mere combat. Some legends attribute its use to Joseon kings or Taoist warriors, symbolizing divine authority to restore cosmic order. In the film, Rumi's sword features Danshong temple patterns and constellations from the Eastern zodiac, blending ritual decoration with a soul map design that enhances its spiritual essence. Alright, so at the very end, after, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, Juno sacrifices himself to save her from Guima. He gives her his soul, right? Okay. The director references a familiar trope from anime and manga. Heroes often receive a dramatic upgrade, larger weapons, more dazzling power as they ascend to their full potential. This visual signals Rumi's transformation at the climax, emphasizing her acceptance of her entire identity and unleashing her greatest strength. But it also according to director Maggie Kong, the sword changes potentially into a dokabi, a mischievous Korean goblin, after Jinu sacrifices himself. While she doesn't explicitly confirm theories that Juno's soul inhabits the blade, the implication is that the sword's growth is a manifestation of his soul and power merging with Rumi's, boosting her through shared strength. This moment also aligns with the film's broader motif of transformation and unity. As Huntrx closed in on sealing the Honmoon in its golden form, Rumi's sword visually reflects that crescendo, growing in resonance and intensity together with her own empowerment. But it's not gold anymore. It is a rainbow. And that leads me to what I would do as a writer. Not because it would be pandering, but because that is what I would want. Here's the thing. There are several anime that use the idea of souls inhabiting weapons or become weapons. Of course, there is Soul Eater, where you have the wielder and the person who turns into a weapon. Okay, so there's that. There is also a game / 2 animes, I think, where there are swords from history who have spirits and they wield their own physical weapon form. They have their spirit person form and they wield their physical sword form. Token Rambu. It's a very it's great anime. Both of them are great. And so the idea that Jinu gave Rumi his soul and it had that visual effect with her sword, I am wondering, hoping I would write it this way, that he's actually still there and over time would learn how to manifest himself physically and maybe do kind of a soul eater thing where he's able to transform from human to weapon so that Rumi could use the weapon. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could play with it. That's kind of how I would justify him, because his body was eaten by Guima. It's gone. But magic. So, and magic can do anything, right? That's the beauty of magic and fantasy. You could just kind of, not reincarnate, but get him a new body himself. Or you could use the sword as his new vessel body, and that over time he would learn how to transform into his self. But that is all. This is actually a little longer than I meant for it to be, but I get really excited and be like just dissecting it all and breaking it apart. We could even go further into the demons, Korean demons and spirits, but they weren't the main focus of, at least their individual spirit types were the main focus of the film. And so I would just say that if you want to use elements in that way, do research and make sure you know what it is you are representing. Something that one of my writing professors, maybe it wasn't a professor, but someone in the writing industry told me that you need to know this much of your story. Like your world, the way magic works, you need to know how it all works. Your reader or viewer only needs to know about this much, like 10% of that 100, okay? And I think that's why you look back at these writers like Tolkien and Lewis. They had these whole worlds. They have mythology, world building. And the reason why it seems so seamless is because they had it all figured out. And that's something I am working on a little bit at a time as I do my writing. But yeah. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something that you haven't seen yet on the internet concerning the folklore and mythology in K-pop Demon Hunters. It is a fun, fantastic movie. The music is great, but I think what really gives it life is the fact that they're using actual cultural elements and folklore that they've been able to twist and make their own while still honoring tradition. And that is all we have for today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be a light in this world. Show some kindness to somebody. And I will see you guys next time. But before I say bye, comment below, what is your favorite Korean demon, element, something, if you know Korean culture. Put in the comments below something that you really like that maybe we can explore in a future video. Tell me who your favorite character in K-pop Demon Hunters is. What's your favorite song? I actually think that Mira is my favorite character aside from Derpy and Sussie. I resonate with her a little bit, so I like her a lot. But that's it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.